execution of duties, the Lord appears on earth as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Since there were so many discrepancies during the reign of King Vena, the Lord sent his most confidential devotee, Maharaj Prithu, to settle things. Therefore, after executing the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and settling the affairs of the world, Maharaj Prithu was ready to retire. He had been exemplary in his governmental administration, and now he was to become exemplary in his retirement. He divided all his property among his sons and appointed them to rule the world, and then he went to the forest with his wife. It is significant in this connection that it is said that Maharaj Prithu retired alone and at the same time took his wife with him. According to Vedic principles, when retiring from family life, one can take his wife with him, for the husband and wife are considered to be one unit. Thus, they can both combinedly perform austerities for liberation. This is the path that Maharaj Prithu, who was an exemplary character, followed. And this is also the way of Vedic civilization. One should not simply remain at home until the time of death, but should separate from family life at the right timely moment and prepare himself to go back to Godhead. As a Shakti Avesha incarnation of God, who had actually come from Vaikuntha as a representative of Krishna, Maharaj Prithu was certain to go back to Godhead. Nonetheless, in order to set the example in all ways, he also underwent severe austerities in the Tapovan. It appears that in those days there were many Tapovanas or forests especially meant for retirement and the practice of austerity. Indeed, it was compulsory for everyone to go to the Tapovan to fully accept the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for it is very difficult to retire from family life and at the same time remain at home. होमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितमेन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपादान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगन ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. There are wonderful senior Vaishnavas, wonderful devotees here. So I seek their blessings because this subject matter, like I said, is going to be very grave. It's going to talk about what we should be doing next after Grahastha Ashrama. So there are going to be few instructions that we will see, which we can practically try to apply. So let's start. Let's start with the most important one. It says at the last stage of his life, right? So there are few uh, portions that I've highlighted. Most of this is because of our Bhakti Vaibhav classes as well. So uh, these we may not be discussing all the highlighted points. We'll try to see how much we can cover. So at the last stage of his life, how do we recognize we are into the last stage of life? Right. So Maharaj Prithu, so we should understand Prithu Maharaj was in the Satya Yuga. He was in the previous yugas where the lifestyle or the lifetime was more or less guaranteed. Today, we don't know at what age we can be asked to get out of this body. Right. So the last stage, of course, we don't know. So let's put it this way. It's as simple as uh, when we see the first hair on the body, on the head that turns white, it's time to understand that we are retiring. So today we are going to talk about retirement, about Vanaprastha life, about getting out of Grihastha Ashrama. that most of us are in. So firstly, we need to understand that if someone, or if from the Shastras, when we read, we understand that at the age of 50, we need to take Vanaprastha, right? So first 25 years is for brahmacharya, for education. Next 25 years is the Grahastha ashrama, where we support the society, most important ashrama, in terms of taking care of the society, taking care of all the other ashramas. And then we get into the Vanaprastha ashrama, wherein we stop taking the responsibilities. Don't need to run my house anymore. I am not supposed to be the owner of anything. I need to learn to give it off to others. That means I become dependent on the Lord. If at all we move to the last ashrama, which is sannyasa ashrama, we are fully dependent on the Lord. Even otherwise, vanaprastha ashrama, we are expected to be completely dependent on the Lord, not on your savings, not on your insurance, of your medical insurance, your stock market investment, not on the properties that you have made, not on the children that you have got, not dependent on any of it. So if I have to do that at the age of 50, it can't happen that my 50th birthday I say, okay, today I'm retiring. It has to be a gradual plan. And that gradual plan is very, very important, right? So His Grace Hari Leela Prabhu, who is our Bhakti Vaibhav teacher from Srila Mayapur, he keeps emphasizing on this topic that see many of his students, many of us were or are in our 40s. So he says you can't plan your retirement at 50. Your plan has to start now. So I will leave with the audience, whatever is your age. If you have not yet planned, then please plan. If you've already planned, wonderful. If you're already in the Vanaprastha ashrama, please bless us that we become more serious about it. Okay. Uh, through today's discussion, we will see a lot more on this topic, but this is the subject matter, right? So what we are dealing with, how we should be. Okay. Firstly, your savings, like I said, your insurance, your properties, your bank balances, your investments, whatever you have got, they should be distributed among people so that you are not depending on that. You don't still feel you're the controller. Your controllership should be handed over to the Lord. Okay. As a king, as the leader of the society, he arranged pension for everyone according to their religious principles. So this is how you retire. Your people who are dependent on you, you give them whatever is bare minimum necessary for them to continue. And of course, we know the story of how he treated Mother Earth. So Mother Earth is accepted here as his daughter. He dedicated his sons to Mother Earth, which means that he split the property among his children. And then finally, Prithu Maharaj left the presence of his citizens who were almost lamenting and crying for feeling separation from the king. Right. So a king who's ruled them very wonderfully, who's taken care of them in the most difficult situation between King Vena and Prithu Maharaj. Right. So we saw, if you remember that story, it's a very nice Prithu Maharaj story. Katha is very, very nice. So you saw how irreligiosity increased, how, Srila Prabhupada uses as rogues and thieves, rogues and rascals. It became dominant in the society, right? So they were everywhere because if you don't have a qualified king, if you don't have a qualified leader, then the irreligious principles take shape. Okay, and you can very well see it in the open society. I mean, different countries, different continents, different states, cities, even within our own spiritual societies, you will see that if you don't have a very qualified leader, then people do things the way that they want. Right? So this is very common. That's what it said. And when you have a very qualified leader, the people genuinely, genuinely lament when he or she is going away. You will see wonderful examples of devotees, acharyas, when they were ending their pastime, they were going away from whatever services they were doing. People genuinely felt their separation. Okay. On in this note, there is we'll talk about many retirement stories today, right? So one of the retirement stories is from from Ramayana, right? So of course, the person who retired in Ramayana, which we all know, is Dashrath Maharaj. Okay, each story has its own flavor. So Dashrath Maharaj, He went to his citizens. He had ruled for almost 60,000 years. We are now talking about Treta Yuga. Right? So he had ruled for a long, long time. People were very happy in his kingdom. And after his Putra Kameshti Yagna, he got his children. Obviously, Lord Ramchandra was born. So he comes to the uh, Praja and he announces that I'm going to do the Pattabhishek of Lord Ramchandra. Okay. And people were jumping in joy. And the king came back and he felt very sad. I have ruled them for so many years. I've ruled them for 60,000 years. I thought they were all happy with me. I come in this Surya Vamsha. My entire Vamsha, the citizens have been always happy. If you read about Raghuvamsham or Suryavamsham book, right? So Kalidasa's book on Raghuvamsham, you will see that all his forefathers from uh, King Raghu onwards, everyone, including Dashratha's own father, uh, people were so happy with their ruling. Now Dashratha is saying that I'm retiring, and people are very happy that I'm retiring. Why is that? So his ministers, they actually tell, well, your kingdom was awesome. You ruled very, very nicely. The only reason why people are very happy that you're retiring is that the person who is going to take over is their lord of their life. Your only mistake is that you have got the Supreme Lord as your son. That is why people are happy that you're retiring, not because you are a bad king, but your son is more wonderful than you. So Dashrath Maharaj was very happy hearing this. Right, so that whole episode from before he went to meet Kaikeyi and what happens eventually, the Ramayana that we know. So this was the incident where he decided to take Vanaprastha. Unfortunately, he could never do that because after Lord Ramachandra went to the forest, he left his body. Right, so this was one of the retirement stories to start with. Usually when the king is very qualified, when the leader is very qualified, the feeling of separation, people lament, people feel sad that they are leaving us, right? So we have many other incidents. Let's move on with the stories. And finally, the king went to the forest alone. A nice part, right? So he went alone with his wife, right? So many times we make a joke of it, right? So, oh, are two of you going alone? Like two of you are never alone, two of you are together, right? So this is from the Shastras. It says alone with your wife, like Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, alone with your wife is allowed with your wife, right? So your Vanaprastha life, both of you are in the renounced mindset, right? So there is no, you're not together because of kama, you're not together because of lust, but you're together because as one unit with Krishna in the center of your life, you are performing your duties. So you're allowed to go. And this is what we have seen. Let's say Pandu retiring with Mother Kunti and Maitri and so on. Right? So Madhvi. So there are other stories also, right? So when the retirement happens, Dhritarashtra goes with Gandhari. So that's there. Okay, so there are a few points here. The one, of course, is he had an exemplary. He had been exemplary in his governmental administration. Now he was to become exemplary in his retirement. Pratumara teaches us how to retire, right? So that's what we are learning here. So his is among the top examples of how to retire. Retired alone with his wife. We saw this point. What he did, he distributed everything, and okay, one should not simply remain at home until the time of death, but should separate from family life at a timely moment and prepare himself to go back to Godhead. We should never overstay in our own house. Very, very difficult topic to understand, very difficult to digest because we're not used to it. We are not used to it. Since the time uh, I know of whatever little consciousness I've got, I've seen my grandparents. In fact, my grandmom's mother was there till my son was born. Big history, right? So I've seen them all at home. Unfortunately, I mean, all my grandfathers have kind of left their body very early, but my grandmoms were all with us. So we should understand how it is. So we will see that uh, going forward, but it is very important that we should disconnect ourselves from our family life. at the right moment. When your children are old enough to run on their own and you are in the retirement age, you should get out. Okay, get out doesn't mean you have to leave the house. We'll see that in the future shlokas when Srila Prabhupada talks about it. You should disconnect yourself. You should not have the feeling that, okay, my grandchildren should come and give me respect. I should get a birthday party. I should be invited to so and so place. That attachment that I am important should actually go away. And again, this is not going to happen overnight. It is going to happen over a period of time. Okay, in the last part, Srila Prabhupada says it was compulsory for everyone to retire. Earlier days, they used to go to Tapovan. Today, we don't have the Tapovanas. So, at least from where we are, we have to retire. Okay, well, it is very difficult to retire from family life and at the same time remain at home, your house. The moment you have the feeling that this is my place, my house, my property, then it is very difficult to retire. Okay. Shloka 4. After retiring from family life, Maharaj Prithu strictly followed the regulations of retired life and underwent severe austerities in the forest. He engaged in these activities as seriously as he had formerly engaged in leading the government and conquering everyone, like we saw, right? So exemplary in his governmental duties, similarly exemplary in his retirement duties. He took up his rules and regulations very seriously. See, if we have to engage at retirement life, one of the things that I understand, though of course not following, probably a long way there, I understand is 8 to 16 hours of your time is dedicated in the service of the Lord. That is retirement life. You don't have time for sense gratification. Okay, you're chanting, you're serving, you're doing whatever activities that is dedicated to the Lord. Okay, so we should be timely in that factor. So I have a relative of mine, very old, I wouldn't say my grandmom, but uh, one of her relatives, very old person, and one time we went to their place for a function. They stay very close to the Sheshadipuram temple. So we had gone. My entire family was there, and me and my wife and my son also we went. And she called me over and she said that, "Hey, Santosh, ಏನಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ಈ ವಯಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? Why are you doing all this in this age? You're so young. You should take up all this seriously when you're old enough." So I looked at her and said, "What is old, auntie?" And she said that, "Well, after you're 50, 60." I told her, "You're already 60. Why don't you take up seriously?" And she said, "To hell with you." Right? So there is a timely piece that people think that it's not for me. No, it's not for me today. If you have to dedicate 8 hours, 16 hours in the service of the Lord when I'm 50 or when I'm retiring, I need to do it today. You suddenly from your full day, you're doing 16 rounds of chanting. This is especially for initiated devotees. It's very, very important. I'm doing 16 rounds of japa every day. That is my 2 hours of sadhana. Thank you so much. And after I'm 50 or after I'm retiring, I'll do 16 hours of sadhana. Does not happen. Does not happen. In fact, very recently, His Grace Vidwan Gaurang Prabhu was here and he told, you have to keep increasing. There is no limit. And some of you who are doing full-time service, who are fully dedicated in the temple, who are out of your working days, right? Out of your working days means out of your business days as well, right? So you should get out. And for you, it's minimum 32 rounds, if possible, 64 rounds, because you need to hold on to your sadhana because you don't have anything else to do, right? So every time we hear this about retirement, it's going to prick us. And every time it's going to prick us, it's actually good for us if we take it seriously. And like I said in the beginning, I'm just talking, not following most of this. I'm just talking from what I heard from senior Vaishnavas. Okay, actually, the whole purpose of Vedic system, the Vedic social order, is to enable one to ultimately return home back to Godhead. That's what we know. So taking up Vanaprastha is our next progress. Can't stay at home and retire. We'll talk about what happens to Matajis who do not have a husband to retire with. For them also, it's very, very simple. The same thing that we just mentioned. Disconnect yourself. Don't be attached to my children, my grandchildren, my property. People have to respect me. ಈ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ದೊಡ್ಡವರಪ್ಪ, ನಮಗೆ ಮರ್ಯಾದೆ ಬೇಕು. ಸಾರಿ, ಐಮ್ ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಮಚ್ ಆಫ್ ಕನ್ನಡ, ಬಟ್ ದೊಡ್ಡವರು, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಎಲ್ಡರ್ಲಿ, ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್. People respect you. You cannot command respect, like they say, right? So you can't demand respect. You act in such a way that people come and respect you, and that's automatic. That's for both Matajis and Prabhujis, right? So we are all going to someday, uh, if we stay alive, going to go into that. So we better be prepared, and people will respect us for that, for our connect with the Lord. And you'll understand people will respect. If don't respect, don't worry. Keep praying for them also.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Could you please repeat this few words again?
Which Amrita, which part,
Yeah,
Amrita
just
Mataji?
now you're telling people without husband and all, they have to leave something. Because in between I have left it. I want to hear again, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank
I'll
you
tell
very
you what
much.
I
It's very
understand.
soothing. Yeah.
Okay, I thought it's very grave, but it's soothing. I'm happy. So what I was telling is, for Matajis who do not have a husband to retire with and so on, they also can be disconnected. They're of course staying with their children, they're staying with their brother, whatever is their situation. They should be, they should be disconnected or not attached to different parts of life, right? So my children, my grandchildren, my property, my savings, they should disconnect themselves. It is there, it is there. Use it in the service of the Lord. And people, so this typical concept of I need to be respected because I'm old, that should get out. Very difficult to give up. Okay, they are so my friends are doing their 60th birthday, 80th birthday. My children are not respecting me. Stop. The more you think you're important, the more you're in the bodily conscious, right? So start getting out of it. Yes, I treat someone comes and gives me a silk saree versus someone who gives me a cotton saree, someone who doesn't give me anything. I treat everyone equally, right? For Matajis, for Prabhujis, it's it's very difficult, and this will have to gradually happen. We have to eventually be there. That's what I was telling Mataji. So we'll move on. The Grihastha ashram is a sort of concession combining sense gratification with regulative life. So the life that we are living is not the right kind of life. It's just a concession. Okay, go do your sense gratification. You're here for that. You have come living the service of the Lord. You have come here. You have your 25 years of life. Do whatever you can. Don't plan your 25 years of life in such a way that the next 25, which is your 50 years plus, you will do all sense gratification. I I have friends, I know of friends who have planned their world trips, who have planned their farmhouses after retirement places and so on. Right. So as devotees, we should plan how we can live in Vrindavan. We'll talk about it. What is Vrindavan? Srila Prabhupada talks about it, not me. It is to enable one to easily retire in the middle of life and engage fully in austerities in order to transcend material sense gratification once and for all. That's what it's mentioned here, right? So this concession that you have in Grihastha Ashrama is very, very, very important. You can talk to sannyasis, you can talk to senior Vaishnavas. They will tell you Grihastha Ashrama is very important because you're taking care of the other ashramas. It's that very important. You have the right to have the deities, you have the right to do the charity, you have the right to have a house and so on, right? So Grihastha Ashrama is extremely, extremely important. And how do you retire out of Grihastha Ashrama is equally important. Unless you plan for it, we are going to be stuck. It'll take many, many, many lifetimes to come out of this bodily consciousness itself. Okay, now we'll talk about how Prithu Maharaj retired, right? So in the Tapovan, Prithu Maharaj, Maharaj Prithu, sometimes ate the trunks and roots of the trees. Sometimes he ate fruits and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he lived simply by breathing air. Well, so Prithu Maharaj, as we can understand that he was a yogi by himself, right? So like we see in the Rishabh Dev story earlier, right? So we'll see that in the fifth canto. I'm sorry, I'm confusing. So Rishabh Dev story also we'll see. But these personalities, they were perfected in yoga, so he could actually perform that. So in the forest, like we read in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you retire to a secluded place, you disconnect from the crowd, you sit in a particular way, you breathe in a particular way, and so on. So you eat a particular kind of food because the kind of food that we are eating basically increases our passion and ignorance depending on how the food is, unless it's all offered to the Lord. So for a yogi who actually retires to the forest, they avoid as much as cooked food for sense gratification. Your tongue, instead of giving it for the tongue, they just give your body some food so that you can survive. Okay, so so some of the devotees, at least disciples of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj. Now, Guru Maharaj disciples follow something called Bhishma Panchaka, where they try doing this, right? So where they try at least avoiding cooked food because those 5 days or 4 days of Bhishma Panchaka, the last few days of Kartik month, they try to lead a very renounced life, right? So forest kind of life, right? So raw items. So this is something that you practice so that you can lead that kind of a life. Anyways, Shil Rupa Goswami. So there's a lot of details about eating. Of course, Atyahara Prayasascha, Prajalpa Niyamagraha, though the six qualities that Srila Rupa Goswami mentions in the nectar of instructions, right? So Upadeshamrita, that you should not be doing this because that is against your spiritual advancement, right? So something that pulls you down. One of them is Atyahara and Prayasa. Atyahara means overeating. Overeating means over accumulating as well. Trying to save, trying to hog, all that is called Atyahara, and Prayasa is too much endeavor. Let me put my 12 hours effort, 8 hours effort, 9 hours effort, uh, you know, to progress, to get my promotions, to save a lot of money. Let me invest here, let me invest there. During your grahastha life, when you do all this, retirement life becomes more and more difficult. Have a regulated lifestyle. Even though it's a concession, have a regulated lifestyle. Okay. It is also notable that according to Vedic instructions, to live in the forest is to live in the mode of complete goodness, whereas to live in the city is in the mode of passion. And to live in a brothel or a drinking house is to live in the mode of ignorance. However, to live in a temple is to live in Vaikunta, which is transcendental to all the modes of material nature. This Krishna consciousness movement affords one the opportunity to live in the temple of the Lord, which is as good as Vaikunta. Consequently, a Krishna conscious person does not need to go to forest and artificially try to imitate Maharaj Prathu or the great sages and munis who used to live in the forest. Right? Like I said, Srila Prabhupada gives us very practical tips on how we should live. Okay? If we make our house the temple, stay at your house. Okay, Srila Prabhupada created this. Uh, so usually during Srila Prabhupada's Vyas Puja offering, we write, Srila Prabhupada, you created a society where the whole world could fit in. You created a house where the whole world could fit in. That's the house he's given us, right? So sometimes we feel we are very, very fortunate that we have got such an opportunity, right? So for example, in our Jagannath temple at ISKCON Sheshadipuram, whatever the management planned for their lordships when they built the beautiful temple that's coming up, they also built homes. When I say houses, nahi, homes for the devotees to come and stay together. This place is not a commercial property. It's place for devotees to come stay together, celebrate Krishna consciousness. Okay, we have Krishna conscious birthdays, we have Krishna conscious anniversaries, we have Krishna conscious Ekadashis. Every event is Krishna conscious or centered around Krishna. Okay, the wonderful devotees who are staying here were very, very fortunate. We don't really stay here full time, but whenever we get an opportunity to come and stay in this house, we feel we are very fortunate. When I read this, I feel that way. So all of us have this opportunity. How do we retire? Timely retire. Make your house Krishna conscious. Make Krishna the center of your house. Well, what happened? You just told that you don't own the house, you don't own the property. Then how does this work? Well, if you're not able to retire and stay in the temple, make your house the temple, make your room the temple. Others are living in other places. Your room can be the temple. Your suitcase can be the temple, right? So you're in the mood of being in the temple, not that you need a huge house, you need a huge property to call yourself as Krishna conscious house, right? So that is what we learn from this. So now from completely vanaprastha retirement life, you have come down to a very simple point that your house, make it for Krishna. Okay, lot of devotees I've seen that they name their house, Nitai Chaitanya house, or they name their house as Gauranga house. Most of us are supposed to do with Gauranga mode, right? So not Radha Krishna house, but when we see that, when they do it, when they have the deities in the house, they actually submit or surrender to the deities, and we learn from such wonderful Vaishnavas. So this highlighted portion in green. So this topic is very nice, and devotees who are serious about retirement, read this topic in the in the sixth canto. We'll again discuss some of these, which are again wonderful. So when we talk about that, also we'll go through these retirement topics again. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada continues, but it is not possible for Westerners to go to the forest and practice the severe austerities which are ideally practiced by Prithu Maharaj or Rupa Goswami. However, Westerners or anyone else can follow in the footsteps of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura by living in a temple which is transcendental to residence in a forest. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada emphasizes on this topic of creating these farmhouses, creating temples where the others could come and stay and serve their lordships, right? So, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur created it that way. So we have also got this opportunity because Srila Prabhupada has created it that way, right? So when he started preaching, imagine how the Westerners would have felt. What the when you can't even enter a forest. So what will happen? Here is the practical solution to it. Okay, we'll move on. Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating process during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain, in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. Okay, so all these austerities, this is actually mentioned as Panchatapa. So basically, you put fire all around you and you're sitting around in the center of the fire during summer. During rainy season, you don't cover yourself, but you're drenched in the rain and so on. These are all yogi processes, okay? Severe processes so that you are telling yourself, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, right? So all these things are for my body. My soul is completely disconnected. Second chapter of Bhagavad Gita I've read, I've already come to Bhagavatam. How should I behave, right? So basically, all these are there. Srila Prabhupada mentioned the purpose for undergoing such severe austerity is to become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of God Krishna, as will be explained in the next verse, right? So to do all this is to not call yourself a yogi, not get people, becoming fan of you, but to become Krishna conscious. Maharaj Prithu underwent all the severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. Okay, when you do austerities, as simple as when you're fasting for special days, tomorrow is Ekadashi. When we are doing Ekadashi, you will see, ideally, devotees can come back and confirm, but you will see that when you're following Ekadashi, your sense gratification is much less because you are in a very sober mode, right? So I keep giving this example of yatras, right? So when you are with devotees in a yatra, when you're doing a parikrama around the Govardhana, that day, when you come back after your Govardhan parikrama, hearing the different kathas, walking your 25 kilometers, visiting all those wonderful places, taking a bath in the different parts of Yamuna River. So when you come back in the night, you don't want to use your mobile phone and watch a YouTube video, do something on social media. You're not going to talk to someone saying that, hey, how was the party? No, you're in such a wonderful, peaceful mood. That is Krishna consciousness. When you're doing austere things, so imagine, no, what sense gratification you will talk about. You will not stay with devotees, have a full day of Janmashtami festival or the Rath Yatra we just finished, or we are doing, in fact, we have a Rath Yatra. Yesterday we had one, today we have one, tomorrow we have a couple. Um, so when you do this kind of full day events, right? So where is your strength to do any sense gratification, right? So when you're fully surrendered to Krishna, then your mind, your words, Your senses, they're all in your control because you don't want to waste them on something useless, right? So uh, many devotees participated in last week's Rath Yatra. When you finish your Rath Yatra that day night, when you go back to your bed, 11:30 in the night, you have done some wind up and everything. When you hit the bed, you just sleep and so relaxed your body and your mind are because you're not thinking of anything else. No pressure of office, no pressure of savings, no pressure of what happened. Trump passed a rule yesterday. Yesterday was US Independence Day. He passed some bill on immigration and all that. Not thinking of all that. You're just thinking of Krishna. Oh, the Lord looked so majestic on the Ratha. So many people, 10,000 people or 15,000 people came and pulled the Ratha, took the prasadam. That's what we should be looking at. So Srila Prabhupada says all these austerities in Kali Yuga doesn't work. What works in Kali Yuga? Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva kevalam. Kalo nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva gatir. Anyata. Nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva. Very simple. No karma, no yoga, no jnana. None of these works. What works? Only bhakti. Harer Nama eva kevalam. Only Harinam works. Okay. In order to be recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should chant the holy name of Krishna, of the Lord continuously, 24 hours a day. Unfortunate persons who cannot accept this formula prefer to execute some type of pseudo meditation without accepting the other processes of austerity. The fact is, however, that one must accept either the severe method of austerity described above to become purified or take the process of devotional service recommended to for pleasing the Supreme Lord. Sri Krishna as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So you have this choice, right? So Srila Prabhupada is giving all of us this choice. Either you take up this severe method of austerity or you do 24 hours of continuous Harinam. Both of them are difficult. What do I do? Focus on one. Keep progressing. Okay. Very simple. So when I came to Krishna consciousness, I'm talking about 2008, 2009, uh, and I started becoming serious. So 15, 16 years now, I can say. When I came to Krishna consciousness, they told me very simple. One life, you decide if you want to give it to Krishna or not. And that probably stuck somewhere. And His Grace Kripame Gaurang Prabhu used to tell me this many times. One life, yeah. Let's give it a shot. What is the worst case? And there's a nice example of Srila Prabhupada. There was one reporter who asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, you seem to have put a very strict rule to your students. You know, they shave their head, they don't eat proper food. Like there's no non-vegetarian food. These are Westerners, right? So there's no non-vegetarian food for them, no alcohol. In fact, there's no association with other. I mean, there's no sex life. What kind of life are they living? What happens if all that you have said is just imaginary and none of this is true? Srila Prabhupada replied back very nicely saying that I understand your question. So yes, my students are living a very strict life, but it's Nitya Utsava. Every day is a festival. Nitya Utsava. We eat wonderful food. We may not eat non-veg or intoxicate ourselves, but we eat wonderful Krishna Prasadam, varieties of food. We may not be traveling like you people do to different places, but we go to different dhams. We hear different katha, so we may not be reading novels, but we are reading different katha. He didn't use the same words. I'm just elaborating for our understanding, right? So everything that you did or everything that you think are enjoyable, we are doing it in a better way. And like you said, if this is all imaginary, we have still lived a full life. But just imagine if what I am proposing is true. All of you are going to rot in hell. These devotees are going to get delivered. That's tracks, right? So one life, let's give it a shot. What's the worst case? We have just enjoyed Krishna consciousness. We have enjoyed the devotee association. Yes, we have left out on whatever the material world calls it as rat race. So what? Who has been happy in the rat race? Tell me one person who is earning 100 rupees who is happy or 1,000 rupees. From the beggar in the street to Bill Gates, there is always going to be some tension, some issues. It's better you're in Krishna consciousness. Take pleasure for Krishna, not for yourself. Okay. If the real purpose of all yoga is to please Krishna, then this simple bhakti yoga system recommended for this age is sufficient. It is necessary, however, to engage constantly in the service of the Lord. See, Srila Prabhupada giving us very, very simple, practical tip, right? So simply this bhakti yoga is sufficient. However, you should be dedicated to this. You should engage constantly in the service of the Lord. Okay. As it is said in Narada Pancharatra, if Krishna is worshipped, if he is the goal of advancement, then there is no need for one to execute severe types of tapasya because one has already reached his destination. Aradito yadi haris tapas tata kim. What else tapa you need? Aradito hari. Okay. If after executing all types of tapasya, one cannot reach Krishna, then it is shrama eva hi kevalam. It is useless because you have done a lot of austerities, lot of homas, yagnas, tapas, whatever, renunciation you have done, but you have not understood Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have just wasted your life. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada says we should therefore not be discouraged just because we cannot go to the forest and practice severe austerities. Our life is so short that we must strictly adhere to the principles laid down by the Vaishnavacharyas and peacefully execute Krishna consciousness. There is no need to become despondent, right? So we are not asked to go to Tapovan, we are not asked to go to forest. We can just stay at our home. Follow what the acharyas have said. Okay, most important part is renunciation from the mind, not from just the body, right? So we should mentally be disconnected, disattached. Should understand our savings cannot save us. It's only the Harinam that can save us. It's only the lotus feet of a spiritual master that can save us. That also takes, if I'm getting old, if I'm not yet initiated, beg for that mercy. Just beg, hold on to the lotus feet of a spiritual master. Don't let it pass. They are your ticket back to Godhead. A spiritual master is the ticket back to Godhead. Okay, your Harinam is giving you the spiritual master, right? So Krishna gives you the spiritual master and spiritual master gives you Krishna. Okay, so anyone here who is not yet initiated, please understand that when we are talking about retirement, there's nothing, no retirement without taking initiation. Please do surrender to a spiritual master. Don't wait. We don't have enough time. Okay. Narottam Das Thakura recommends Anande Anande Balahari Bhaj Vrindavana Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majaye Mana. For a transcendental blissful life, chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Come worship the holy place of Vrindavan and always engage in the service of the Lord, of the spiritual master, and of the Vaishnavas. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very safe and easy. We have only to execute the order of the Lord and fully surrender unto Him. Again, highlighted in green, saying that, look, this is so sweet, so simple. It says we are in the safest place, it's easiest to follow. And if we don't take this seriously, how stupid are we? And it's easy to talk, very difficult to follow. So I can understand I'm the most stupid of these people. Not the most of anything, but I'm equally stupid or badly stupid. So uh, just saying that this is so easy, it just says, come chant. And Srila Prabhupada created this Vrindavan all over, right? So when we go to uh, any place around the world, you would see the Srila Prabhupada. You have a new Vrindavan in some place, new Panihati Dham. The places of Mayapur and Vraj are there among us. In the temple, we have Nilachal Nivas. We are staying in Jagannath's Dham, right? So we should have that consciousness, right? So even in Vrindavan, you can do a wrong activity, get punished for it in Vraj, or you can do a spiritual activity in Bangalore and still be connected to the Lord. Okay, we'll try to move on a little quicker from here on because from here on, Maharaj Prathu is disconnecting himself, so we should also be able to disconnect. Okay, by thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaj Prathu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercise to control his mind and senses, and by such control, he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activities. So Srila Prabhupada talks here in the purport about the pranayama process. So pranayama breathing process is not only to make your body, have a good breathing, become strong and all that. It is also to become uh, able enough, mind controlled enough to take up Krishna consciousness. Yoga, any yoga, it's not gymnastics. It is for your body and mind to be in the right way for us to be engaging in Krishna consciousness, not for wasting our time. Okay, the same thing. If you just don't know such yoga practice is simply waste of time if it's not meant for elevating to Krishna consciousness. The best yoga is follow the Harinam Sankirtana. Okay, so Sanat Kumara instructed Maharaj Prathu to engage constantly in the service of the Lord, right? So in the previous chapter 39 shloka, we saw that only by worshipping Vasudeva can one become free from desires of fruitive activities. It's there in the next one, saying that thus the best amongst human beings, Purusha Rishabha, Maharaj Prathu followed that path of spiritual advancement, which was advised by Sanat Kumara. That is to say, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, right? So all these austerities that you're reading, Maharaj Prithu just did not do that whimsically. It's from the shloka, not from the purport. Shloka itself says he understood the aim that was given by the Kumaras. It was given by Sanat Kumara. So he actually followed it and he understood that my aim should be the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, that's what is there in the purport. So I'll just move on. If a devotee adheres strictly to the orders of the spiritual master, follows the rules and regulations, and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, it should be concluded that he's already at the Brahmabhuta stage. So Brahmabhuta stage is a person realized in the Brahman, a Brahman realization, right? So you already placed there. So this shloka from the 14th chapter is Mam Yacha Vibhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatita Etan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Okay, one who's engaged in full devotional service. He has already come to the level of Brahman. That means he is not controlled by the three modes of material nature. Maharaj Prutu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to the principles 24 hours daily. Thus, his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of God at Krishna developed and became unflinching and fixed. As you progress 24 hours a day, what will shake you? Bhagavad Dharminaha is described by Viraraga Acharya, right? So he says, Nivritta Dharmina, which indicates that it cannot be contaminated by material aspirations. So Srila Rupa Goswami says that Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. How should be there? There should be no Abhilasha. Anya Abhilasha Shunyam. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam, right? So there's no other Abhilasha. What is the only Abhilasha that we have? Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. How whatever favorably I can discharge for Krishna. That is called Bhakti Uttama. So it is beyond Jnana and Karma, right? So Jnana Karma Dhyanavartam Anukulyena Krishna Bhakti Uttama. So Uttama Bhakti means I don't have any other desire. No desire for Jnana, no desire for Karma, no desire for demigods position, no desire for heavenly planets. Only thing I want is Krishna. If I do everything favorably for Krishna, then favorably for Krishna's service, then I'm already in Uttama Bhakti situation. Okay, by regularly discharging devotional service, Prithu Maharaj became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge by which he could transcend all doubts. Thus, he was freed from the clutches of false ego and material conception of life. So, Krishna confirms this, right? So, by Krishna's worship, whatever you need to know will be known. Whatever is needed for your situation, you will get it. Okay, that is full confidence. You will get everything that is required for us to know. The example is very nice here. It's like a queen when she's coming, all the maid servants follow. Similarly, when bhakti or devotional service is coming, all the material opulence, reparation, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, everything follows us. Okay, very nice, simple katha. I will tell you. After that, we'll move on. So there is this village. A few people in the village, they all gather together and they say that we are struggling in this village. Let's go to the king and ask him for some solution. So they all go to the king and the king meets them and says what happened. So each villager has a problem. He says that we don't have enough food, we don't have enough clothing, our houses are, breaking, our roads are bad, we don't get good water. Each of them has a complaint. So king says that, see, I can't solve everything for all of you, right? So do one thing. He calls his minister and says, take one wish from each of these person and let's fulfill. So some person asks for good clothes, some person asks for lot of grain, some person asks for a land, some person asks for a good house and everything. The one smart gentleman, he comes and minister says, "What you want?" He says that, uh, Minister ji, aap, you please bring the king to my house. That's all he says. What he says? Bring the king to my house. They say, okay, if the one desire, right? So only one desire. When the king is coming home, what happens? Automatically he gets good dress, automatically he gets good food, because king is visiting, he gets the house repaired, he gets all the new furnitures in the house. The road to his house is also laid properly, right? So if you know what to ask, you will get everything else will follow, right? So Bilva Mangal Thakur actually mentions this wonderful song that is written, the prayer that is written, Krishna Karnamrita, where he says that I have devotion to you. This Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is waiting in the uh, road, I mean, waiting in my entrance of my house to serve me eagerly. They are just waiting, right? So, says religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, liberation become like personal attendance and remain standing before me as if awaiting my order. Why? I have got Krishna. Everything else will follow. If you are smart enough, we need to know what to ask, right? So ask for the king. Don't ask for anything lower. That's all we need to ask. If Krishna so desires, he'll give us the best. Okay. And the best is what Krishna thinks is the best, not what we think. Okay. If Krishna thinks you need to have enough wealth, he'll give you. If Krishna thinks that's not needed for you, your spirituality, he'll take away everything. We being prepared and having faith that Krishna will do the best for me, that is what is our biggest win or loss. A devotee does not want any kind of material opulence. Okay, we can move on. Brahmabhuta stage. The wonderful purpose. Please take time and read it. I might not be doing justice to cover all of them. When he became completely free from the conception of material body, Maharaj Prithu realized Lord Krishna sitting in everyone's heart as Paramatma, being thus able to get all instructions from him. He gave up all other practices of yoga and jnana. He was not even interested in the perfection of yoga and jnana system. For he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and that unless the yogis and the jnanis become attracted to Krishna Katha, narration about Krishna, their illusion concerning existence can never be dispelled. Right. So coming out of bodily conception, Lord in the heart, Paramatma, giving us all the directions, instructions. All this is clear. Okay, keep your ears open for Krishna Katha. Where the Jnanis and the Yogis fail is that they are very interested in the Vedas, the Vedantas. They're not interested in hearing the Krishna Leela because they feel that Leela is inferior. Okay, the people talk about getting Shruti Praman, not the getting Shabda Praman and not a Shruti Praman because Arey, Shabda is from the Lord, Vedas and all that. But the nectarian pastimes, we'll talk about this as we go along. Our Krishna Janmashtami is coming. We are going to talk about a lot of Leelas of Krishna, right? Or hear a lot of Leelas of Krishna, rather. That would be the right way. So let's hear as much as possible. Keep our and uh, ears and eyes open for Krishna. Okay, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. His janma, his birth and his activity is a person who understands his in truth. Tyaktva deham punarjanmaneti. He leaves this body, there is no punarjanma. Mameti. So Arjuna, you come back to me. Krishna guarantees that. Why are we worried? Why are we looking at anything else? Why the yogis and the jnanis? Right? So that's there. Srila Prabhupada re-emphasizes Rupa Goswami's shloka of Anyabhilashita Shuni. In due course of time, Maharaj Puthu was to give up his body. He fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna and thus completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform. He gave up the material body. Right? So what does he do? He is firmly fixed upon the lotus feet of Krishna. So in your Bhakti Vriksha classes, you would have heard this topic of Ante Narayana Smriti. At the end of life, what will you do? Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati anta kalevaram. Tam tam eveti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitaha. Right? So whatever you remember at the end of your life, when you're giving up the body, that position you will attain. Right? So Maharaj Putha was firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Krishna. And we are also given that opportunity at the end of life. If you have to remember of Krishna, then throughout the life you should have practiced remembering Krishna. And Kuleshekar Alvar very nicely mentions this. We don't have time to actually sing this song. I'm not a good singer, but please hear to His Grace Mahatma Prabhu singing this wonderful song, Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Pancharantam. Beautiful song from Mukundamala Stotra, one of Srila Prabhupada's favorites, right? So he talks about I should live the body when I'm healthy and I'm able to remember you, Krishna, because at the end of my life, with all the tribulations that I have, with your 35,000 scorpions stinging at the same time, the pain of that, with my, Vayu and Pitta and all that not being in my control, how do you think I will remember you, Krishna? For this, Krishna replies to the Acharya saying that, um, my dear Acharya, there's, I don't remember the name of the Acharya. He says, when you're healthy, you remember me. When you're not able to do it, it is my duty to remember you. That is Krishna's assurance to all of us, right? So when you're healthy, give it to Krishna. So the same example that I told of my relative who asked me, why are you doing it now? Why don't you do it after you retire? After retirement at the age of 60, even the company doesn't want you because you can't contribute. Now you are saying that I'll give myself to Krishna. What are you giving? You are coming here. I mean, please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that you are dependent on others. There are devotees who are serving you instead of focusing on Krishna service. So you serve the devotees today. You take care of the elderly people today. When you become old enough, you will be entitled to take service from others because Krishna will send those people. Again, you cannot demand it. You will automatically get it, right? Desperately devotees run and serve wonderful acharyas, run and serve Guru Maharaj, spiritual masters. Why? Because they know that these people are entitled for it, and we should always feel we are never entitled for anything. Never entitled for anything. It's all under the hands of Krishna. When Maharaj Prithu practiced the particular yogic sitting posture, he blocked the door of his anus with his ankles, pressed his life and left calves, and gradually raised his life hair upward, passing it to the circle of his navel, up to the heart, to the throat, and finally pushed it upward to the center position of his eyebrows. So, this is called Muktasana, or how you attain Mukti, where you bring the life hair to the center of your eyebrows, right? So, and then you leave it from your randra, right? So from the top of your head. So that's what you will see here in the next sloka. In this way, Maharaj Patu gradually raised his life hair up to the hole in his skull, whereupon he lost his desire to material existence. Gradually, he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, and the fire within his body with the totality of fire. So again, like I said in the very beginning, right? So some topics that we heard in the second canto of Bhagavatam about creation, right? So secondary creation by Brahmaji. He talks about this, right? So from the Mahatattva, the different elements come. So he starts merging the different aspects of his body back to these gross and subtle elements. Okay, can read through the purpose. Srila Prabhupada actually explains that unless the living entity has information of the spiritual world and the Vaikunthas, there is 99.9% chance of of his falling down again into the material existence. The 1% is an exception. So you can decide if you want to be guessing that you will be an exception, or prepare yourself, understand Vaikuntha Loka, go back home, back to Godhead. In the absence of varieties of enjoyment, the spiritual gradually feels an attraction to enjoy a life of bliss, and not having any information of Krishna Loka or Vaikuntha Loka, he naturally falls down to material activities in order to enjoy. So Srila Prabhupada talks about Brahman realization going to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti and saying that, okay, because there is no activity there and the soul is individual, it is bored. Basically, it talks about Buddhist concept of Shunyavad. So the soul is ever existing, right? So this one we have seen in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says, I'm individual, and so are all these. And there is no time when we were all created. So all of us were there with Krishna. So let's go back to Krishna. Anything less than that, you will not be satisfied, because Anandamaya Abhyasa, that's the quality of the soul. The soul wants to be in Ananda. If you're not able to do that, you fall down here again. In this way, according to the different position of the various parts of the body, Prithu Maharaj merged the wholes of his senses with the sky, his bodily liquids with the blood, such as blood and various secretions with the totality of water, and he merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air, air with sky, and so on. So all these gross elements that make up the body, he merged them back. So Srila Prabhupada in fact mentions it here, right? So like in the second canto, fifth chapter, we have seen this. Brahmaji clearly explains this to Narad Muni, how the creation takes place. So he reverses that creation. From the body, everything goes back to, not the creation, but from the body, everything goes back to its elements. Like when a pot is broken, it goes back to the making of the pot, right? So before what the pot was, it was just mud. So it will go back to becoming a mud. He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions. Gross is done, now the subtle. And he also amalgamated the material ego or intelligence with the total material energy, Mahatattva. So our ego comes from Mahatattva, or false ego, that we are this body. So everything he sent back. That means he basically left his body. The spirit soul lives, everything else goes back to its original position. The yogis probably can see it. As bhaktas, we don't need to worry. As bhaktas, what are we worried about? We'll probably stop with this. When the mind is completely washed of all material contamination, the pure consciousness acts. The sound vibration from the spiritual sky can automatically cleanse all material contaminations, as confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. We need only take the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and chant the Hare Krishna mantra to cleanse the mind of all material contamination. And this may be considered the summary of this difficult verse. In fact, this difficult chapter that we have read so far, this is the summary. Thus, one can gloriously become freed from all material contamination by the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just as life in this material world has its beginning in material sound, similarly, the life in the spiritual world has its beginning with the spiritual sound vibration, Shravanam. Okay, let's do Shravanam and Kirtanam together. Get out of this most difficult point that we are in. We'll stop here. Next chapter is just talking about Prithu Maharaj renouncing and continuing. So after that, we'll see about how Archi Mata followed in the footsteps of Prithu Maharaj. Okay, so all these difficult things, all these things about retirement, we see different stories that are there. We just heard about Dashrath Maharaj. We have Dhritarashtra, who, after hearing from Vidura, he retired. He retired and he actually had a full retirement. We see Rishabh Dev. He actually retired in a very different way. He called his 100 sons, gave them the property, made Maharaj Bharata the king, and then he renounced everything but stayed in the streets. So he lived like an Avaduta. Bharat Maharaj retirement, all of us know, we keep quoting these stories, right? So he took retirement, but he got attracted to a deer. We'll hear that story anyways later. What is that meaning? And then how he came back as a deer and then as Jadabharata. And then he gave instruction to Raghunatha and got delivered. So each of them have a different retirement story. Vanaprastha story and forest retirement story is very simple. We follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, Rupa Goswami, retire everything and go to the Vraja. No, we probably aren't, but we take the instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada here, saying that make your house centered for Krishna and you can retire accordingly. Hold on to the Harinam, hold on to the lotus feet of the spiritual master, and your life is guaranteed to be successful. Difficult topic, rush through it. Please read the purports. I'll stop here. If there are any questions, comments, we have a few minutes we could probably take.
Hare
Any
Krishna
comment?
Prabhu, Dhanavad
Yes,
Pranams. Yes,
Ram
yes,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji, it is, I think we are very, very fortunate to hear from you because I feel like so much of Vaishnava Association, you distill all the good advices that you have heard from so many Vaishnavas and give us. So I think I feel very fortunate. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Happy for that, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Yes,
Yeah.
please bless me
And
and continue to associate. Yes.
Prabhuji, I'm not at all qualified to bless you. So, yes, Prabhu, that was one. And we love your very intense and practical classes, Prabhu. So that's what I want to say. So, but yeah, this is an interesting topic, but and confusing also. Like, how should Grihasthas plan their retirement? But of course, you have said many times in multiple different ways. But if you have to summarize, like, what are the practical tips for Grihasthas, how they should plan their retirement?
Prabhu, start planning in your in your 30s and 40s. What it
Okay.
what it means is that what should I do when I'm 50? Okay. Basically, I need to understand that I may not be able to earn like I'm doing today because I don't want to do that. I want to stop at some stage, and 50 is probably the right age. There should be uh, enough savings to continue your life, but your lifestyle should be so simple that it should be centered around Krishna. So when you're healthy, someone gave me this advice. Kripamay Gaurang Prabhu told me, why don't you buy a house in the temple? And that's what we did. We got ourselves a small house in Jagannath temple. So that's all is our retirement plan. Okay, whatever little savings that will probably give us our livelihood. The focus is progress so that I can serve Jagannath as long as possible. Responsibilities, yeah, like I said, your child should be old enough to take care of themselves. So plan for them also, plan for their life, whatever as parents we have to give, and whatever is needed for our parents, right? So our parents might be old enough. If we are 50, they might be in their 70s and 80s. So we have to plan for their medical or whatever is needed for them. Don't plan for sense gratification. That's very, very important. One of the things that they told me is, Sanatan, it's not about giving your 50% or 25% to the Lord. What do you do with the other 50% or 25% or 75% is very, very important, because that should not be used in sense gratification, because you cannot stop that later. Use that wisely, right? So when you start using that only for Krishna, then you will not have the desire that, okay, I need to do a world tour. I need to see the mountain of Alps. I want to see the Disneyland. I want to see, what's happening in different places of the world. I don't want a farmhouse in on the banks of Kaveri near, all these desires. I've had friends who still discuss these things, where we talk about buying a wonderful land on the banks of Kaveri River near Tanjore or wherever it is, right? So all those desires you have to stop. I have a desire, okay, can I retire to in Vrindavan? Can I retire in Mayapur, where I think I'll get devotee association, or can I retire in Jagannath Mandir? I mean, that's what is, I think, you should practically plan and ask your counselor. We should all have a spiritual authority whom we can go and talk to. Ask them as to, today, this is my lifestyle. What should I cut? What should I add? Okay, we need to give up a few things from our lifestyle. Okay, desire for an iPhone. Every time the model changes, getting an iPhone. I've seen devotees do it, right? I'm not saying don't use iPhone. I'm just saying that if that's a desire that's holding you, then give it up. Give it up, because tomorrow you can't afford an iPhone, or you don't want to afford an iPhone. And uh, sorry, I'm exceeding time, but I'll give a very practical example. We have a wonderful, wonderful devotee called his grace Narayan Padmana Prabhu. Many of you might be knowing. I'm not sure if he gives classes here, Prabhu. You can invite him. So he basically took retirement. Okay, he was in a very, very high position in a corporate company. He took his retirement. He said, I'm going to do full-time service, and he's doing full-time service. He's built a huge congregation. He's built a huge congregation in Hulimavu, connected to Sheshadapuram temple. Super devotee. I always look up to him. I discuss a lot of things with him. So when he decided to take retirement, he told me, I asked him, Prabhu, how did you decide? Because if I also someday, he's not too old, right? He's just a few years elder to me. If I have to retire, what should I do? He told me, Sanatan, you should have enough savings. That your saving should not pinch you. And then you should understand luxury. Today I can afford a two-tier AC or a flight ticket. Tomorrow I'll probably come down to a three-tier AC. I'll lower my standards. I'll take a train instead of going by flight, because today what I have is time. If I have to go by train for 8 hours instead of flying for 2 hours, probably take an 8-hour train. Chant through the 8 hours. I will not waste Jagannath's money, because whatever I have got is for the service of the Lord. Whatever I'm using for myself, it's that money. So that always reminds me that I cannot suddenly change my lifestyle. So I will tune my lifestyle in such a way that I'm not over eager to get the latest. Okay. And sometimes materially people say, oh, why are you buying a small house or a small bike or a small car or wearing normal cloth? Why don't you buy branded? It's okay. It's okay. You're not here to please them. You're here to please Krishna. If your house is sufficient enough, a two-bedroom house is sufficient enough to keep the Lord, that is sufficient. You don't need to stretch yourself. In Kannada, there's a proverb, hasige iddashtu kaal chachu. Spread your leg only as much as the mat is, right? So don't try to expand yourself beyond that. Okay. I'll stop here. Long answer. In short, be very practical, Prabhu, and plan plan for the retirement if you've not already started. All of us have to.
Okay, Prabhu, sure. And what I see is like there's multiple options in ISKCON. I see there are some devotees who go to Mayapur, some devotees who go to Vrindavan, some devotees who go to temple, some devotees who go to farm communities, some devotees stay back where they are and they serve the congregation. So multiple options.
Everything
Most-
works, Prabhu. Everything works. Perfect answer.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for the nice questions, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Prabhuji. Thank
Prabhu.
you,
Dandavat
Prabhuji.
Pranam. Thank you.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. May I ask one very serious question, Prabhuji? Last few days, I'm like all completely grief stricken, Prabhuji. And this is to all of you, all my devotees, and you, Prabhuji. Actually, what I learned in school about dairy farming was and animal husbandry is they do artificial insemination to get more and more animals and what cattle to provide milk and I mean milk products to serve the all of us.
Correct.
But actually, after coming into Krishna consciousness, I have of course, I belong, my grandparents had agriculture, so I had a lot of affection and love for cattle. But as a child, I never played. But now, after coming into Krishna consciousness, listening to Krishna stories, and I started watching a lot of these goshalas, and sometimes always felt that I should have one and or arrange for something like that. But somehow, for some reason, a post came into my. I looked at a post which about what is happening in the dairies these days, and it's just 2 3 days since I saw that video, and I'm getting more and more. Once you open up a video, you keep getting more and more of those, and this is impossible for me to bear it about how badly the cattle are. It's I would use. I mean, the lady who's uh, explaining about all this said that our go matas are being raped, and the small what do you call calves are not given the sufficient milk, and they are the next batch who's going to be raped are the calves, for the simple reason that every year that they have to produce one female calf, so that we have the milk business going on and we have the leather business going on, and India is the highest exporter of beef and leather, and all of us are consuming dairy milk every day. And it is not going down my throat, Prabhuji. I am not even able to sleep last 2 3 days. I don't know how to convince myself. I have to stop drinking milk and eat curd, which and I don't know why, when we are thinking so much about ourselves, we are the only thinking. And I saw those pictures, Prabhuji. I don't know whether I can share it with all of you, but how badly they're being forget the butchering is easier. Every year they're just tying up the cows and cattle and just doing things which no mother, no lady will like, anybody touching her body like that. Why are we allowing, when we have such big associations talking about going back to Godhead? We, of course, we have to go back to Godhead, but why are we allowing all this, Prabhuji? I don't know. I'm
Ma-
not sure. I'm sure this is not happening in the goshalas maintained by our community, but I don't know. I didn't see this as a child. I'm seeing it now.
Mataji, the exposure today is a lot more. That's the reason why we are seeing it. It's not new.
Pardon?
The exposure that we have today, the social media or the
Okay,
YouTube
okay.
videos that you're watching, that's so it's not new. It's not new. This has been happening. There are a lot of societies that talk about Goraksha. They try speaking about this. So I remember what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told Srila Prabhupada, right? So Kali Yuga is going to be like this, and we need to look at what best we can do to bring everyone. If the whole world becomes Krishna conscious, then all this will stop. We can't individually solve these issues. We are not going to stop the factories. We are not going to stop these people from taking on the leather and producing it. What we can stop is from them doing all this by giving them Krishna. So if we are not doing enough preaching, if we are not bringing people to Krishna consciousness, that is our failure. See,
Prabhuji, can
today,
it
like
not be
you,
told to the government or something
oh,
big? I mean,
Mataji, let's be practical. Mataji, government, what will they do? Will they impose? So what did Srila Prabhupada do? He spoke to Indira Gandhi, he spoke to the leaders of the society, told them Krishna consciousness should be the center. Oh, I remember this devotee from Madurai, Tirupalai, um, uh, Balram Govind Prabhu, His Grace Balram Govind Prabhu. He runs a jewelry shop, uh, very, very popular, huge multimillionaire. And every day in his office, factory, every whatever it is, morning they do a Mangalarti, they do one round of japa, only then they start their business. Every employee has to follow. If the society becomes Krishna conscious, all this will stop. Otherwise, it's not going to stop. Okay. So, yeah, it's Kali Yuga. You can feel bad for it. Devotees not speaking can please go on mute. Okay. So, if if we can't stop in the society, let's make them devotees, Mataji. That's what we should pray to Krishna. And every body that is there, every soul that gets into a body has its own karma to go through, right?
very, very
So,
sad.
so we need to understand all this. That's why we are reading the scriptures, because you look at the material world, very
Then we
similar
should stop
question.
drinking milk, na,
No,
Prabhuji?
Mataji, I'll not give you such suggestion to stop drinking milk. There are devotees who are producing milk. Look for those things. Look for A2 genuine
Go
milk.
to. Yeah, we are taking that only, but
Mataji,
that,
we can't stop everything. So the choice is yours. It's not a general statement that we stop drinking milk. Similarly, someone very recently showed me some photos of slum bearers, how they are treated and all that. You go into every slum, start cleaning. That's not going to work. Some people talk about cleaning the rivers and the lakes that are. We can try doing all these things. Instead of that, let's start preaching Krishna conscious. Make devotees. These nonsense in the Kali Yuga will reduce. And we are in the golden age. Please understand it's going to get worse. And if we don't take ourselves seriously and get out means we need to preach. What is Sri Hari Prabhu doing here? Every day he is running so many Gita Gyan sessions. I really admire him for what he's doing. He's bringing so many devotees, so many souls. Do your bit, Mataji. Okay.
yes,
Tan man
Prabhuji.
dhan se. So that is what Srila Prabhupada gave us. That's what we need to do. Srila Prabhupada didn't ask us to go and fight against all these politicians and these big factories. And that is not our mode at all. Yes, there are going to be people in the society or probably the Kshatriya nature who will do it. But for us, like you said, we all feel sad. Pray for those souls. Yes, where we can cut off. Yesterday we stopped meat. Tomorrow we can stop milk coming from these things. So look for devotees who are producing. We know there is a devotee in Melkote who produces ghee. So we always order ghee from them. Milk and curd, very difficult to get from them. So milk and curd from some other A2. So we build our society, we get those contacts, we start using that, right?
Mhm.
So like you said, cattle better. You can probably talk to devotees, maybe have an association, start a Goshala in Bangalore, start a Goshala in place where you are. And maybe all the devotees will come and support. Right.
Yes,
I mean, if
yes.
our intentions are right, Krishna will give us the right results. Right. Don't try solving
Yes,
the material problems. I'm sorry. I know it's hurting, but same thing. We also feel sad for a few things, but we can't stop it.
yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you so
It's
much, Prabhuji.
well
Hare
beyond
Krishna.
time. Thank you for staying back, everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining in.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Daldas pranam. Hare Krishna.